Frankie, last night, quite a journey, ups and downs all over the place. What was the bigger factor you thought in the Kings' victory? That incredible 3-point shooting or that fourth quarter defense?
I mean, I think we all know this team can shoot the ball well, and we saw that earlier in the season. They had 23 made threes. I can't remember which game that was. It might have been Charlotte, but locking in defensively, something that this team has struggled with so much this season. That was my biggest takeaway, and the fact that you had guys like Domantas Sabonis after the game saying that they knew, like they know too, the same thing the fans know, that the game on Saturday was disappointing. They fell apart against a shorthanded team, and I think at halftime, the 5-point lead after everything considered how great the first quarter was, it was kind of another case of here we go again, and the fact that they were able to lock in and shut down again a shorthanded Grizzlies team, but they still have players. I mean, Memphis is where they are because of how deep they are. And some of their main guys, like Jaren Jackson Jr. and their whole starting five, finished double figures. They did what they do, but being able to take them out of the game, especially in the fourth quarter, and just really make it a laugher, that to me was what stuck out the most.
Frankie Cartoscelli joining us, Kings Insider, Sactown Sports. I found myself last night going, another Domantas Sabonis triple-double. Is that the quietest triple-double ever? And are we can't be getting used to this, right? You're not allowed to get used to this, right?
I don't think you can ever I can't ever get used to it, but when you look at the fact that, I guess if you were to chalk it up, it'd be a quote-unquote bad game for Sabonis. Because he had eight turnovers, a time career high. But he still makes things happen. He still was finding teammates. He still finished 10 rebounds on a night the Kings really needed to win on the boards. I mean, obviously no Steven Adams, but they just got killed in the paint against Philly without Joel Embiid, and they've been beaten in the paint by Memphis all season long. But what Domantas Sabonis is doing, and especially I think the broken thumb or the bad hand narrative is starting to kind of fade away, because he clearly is unaffected at all. This person, Domantas Sabonis, is not affected by mortal injuries like broken thumbs. He's not affected at all. So I think it's something that should be appreciated, and it's not something you see every day, and especially not something that you see this consistently. But whether it's triple doubles or double doubles, he's making it happen every night, and he's someone who I think we can consider him a shoo-in for the All-Star game. Now, I think it'd be kind of a huge snub if he doesn't make it. And you see guys like JJ Redick, who has a vote saying he's going to put him in a starting vote group. So I think it's kind of spreading around that Domantas Sabonis, he's going to be in Salt Lake City, and he deserves it.
Frankie, the development that we're seeing right now from Keegan Murray, he's in such a great run. His shooting is off the charts. He looks so much more comfortable. He's driving a little bit more, and the challenge by Coach Brown to get him to rebound has finally started to come through. His impact on this team as they go forward and try to make it to the playoffs, what kind of role do you think he has in making this a playoff-type team?
Well, I think his role is growing. I mean, I think that's kind of naturally what you see from rookies in any sport. You kind of grow as the year goes on, or your career goes on. But the three-point shooting is obviously, it's better than I thought it would be. I think in college he was a great shooter, and from volume too at Iowa. But he also rebounded in college, and I think that's been the biggest kind of addition to his game over the past month or so. Mike Brown really challenged him and used his athleticism both to rebound and also, like you said, go in the paint and go dunk on people. I've seen him. We've all seen him go at the rim more than we have the first 2-3 months of the season. But between going into the paint, going to the rim, rebounding more, I think he's averaging around 6 rebounds per game for the month of January. That's a huge addition to his game, and it's something that makes him valuable. And it's a team. The Kings are a team that need rebounding, and that's, I think, one of the main reasons why Mike Brown really has kind of pointed at Keegan, someone who's 6'8" and long and has a history of rebounding in his previous stops in Iowa. I just think that the Kings need that kind of punch. And Domantas Sabonis, like we talked about, he's been great on the boards, but he needs help. And when you have players like De'Aaron Fox, who's having a career year rebounding the basketball out of the guard spot, you have Harrison Barnes, who normally is a 5-6 rebound guy, but kind of not really as much lately. He's more of a scorer. You need that other guy that can go in there and get you rebounds. And Keegan, I think he has 9 or more rebounds in 3 of the last 4 games. That's exactly what you need.
Frankie, which was more impressive to you? 22 of 40 from behind the arc. That's a 55% clip. Or the fact that they out-rebounded the Grizzlies 53-31.
As much as I do, I highlighted, I love the rebounding, but I'll go ahead and take a back seat just because no Steven Adams. I'd like to see what it would have looked like last night with Steven Adams. I'd like to hope the Kings would have kind of gotten up if with John Morant and Steven Adams. I think you said earlier, Dave, if you could have told me you're going to split Philly and Memphis, you take it. And I think that even with considering the circumstances, that's still a win. But the 3-point shooting, I mean, I think even Kevin Huerter said last night that he had to look next to Fox and the better. Fox looked over him on the bench with when they were 10 for 10 and said, "We have not missed a shot yet." And they're superstitious. They didn't want to talk about it, but that to me is impressive. And again, this team, the whole starting five has really taken a step forward. I mean, De'Aaron Fox, I think he's quote unquote the worst 3-point shooter of the bunch, and he's shooting around 34% from three. And Domantas Sabonis has been somebody who has had that in his bag when he needs it. But I think Harrison Barnes, that 5 for 6 first quarter really set this thing off and got them off and running. But the 3-point shooting to me absolutely was impressive last night.
Frankie, this team has a lot of good elements to it. It seems like they're really good when the bench contributes. Coach Brown talks about the bench contributing defensively, but offensively last night we saw a much better game from Malik Monk. And then what Trey Lyles did, I think was his best game as a King. Talk about what you think his role could be as this team, makes its push in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, he's going up on the Mike Brown trust chart. I mean, he's getting more and more opportunities, and he deserves it. He's knocking down 3 balls. He's been rebounding. I think last night he had 3 blocks and 2 steals. He's been doing it on both ends of the floor, and that's something that I think has been so underrated about him as his defensive impact. And that's why Mike Brown will at times throw him in there at the backup 5 when you're not getting great minutes from Rashawn Holmes and Chimezie Metu. That's kind of your third string center there in Trey Lyles at this point. And I think when you add in the fact that he can stretch the floor, it just kind of brings it all together. And I think coming into the season, that was one of the biggest reasons why I was so hopeful the team would pick up his option. I think it's $2.5 million team option. That at this point has to be one of the better bargains in the NBA. I mean, I do think over the past month he's been one of the better bench pieces in the league. And we talked about how great Malik Monk was over the first month of the year and how Mike Brown and other players were saying he should deserve some consideration for 6th man of the year. Trey Lyles is in that conversation right now. I mean, we'll see how the next couple months of the season goes, but if he keeps playing this way, I mean, he has to at least get a vote or two. I mean, he deserves it. He's been such a huge part of what this team's been doing off the bench. And when you see Malik Monk, who did have a nice bounce back game last night, he fluttered with the triple-double. You have Trey Lyles doing what he does off the bench. It makes the Kings that much more dangerous of a team. They score 133 points when they get contributions from their bench. As good as the starting 5 has been, you need a little more from those guys off the bench. And that's exactly what they got last night. And that's exactly what the Grizzlies didn't get last night. If you look at their box score, they didn't get much bench scoring at all. And that's how valuable bench scoring is, and why the Kings have gotten off to such a good start this season, is that more times than not, they've had those guys that can come off and give the starters a little bit of relief. But Trey Lyles is a massive, massive part of that.
Sactown Sports Kings insider Frankie Cartoscelli with us. Rashawn Holmes got the start for an ailing Domantas Sabonis against the Lakers. He responded with 16 and 11. The following game was a DNP for him. You look at the numbers he put up last night, and in 14 minutes, granted it's a small sample size, but he had 5 points, he had 4 boards, he had a block, and he had that 3-point play that I think really is underrated as far as a momentum boost. That was really an important igniting type of play. Are we, sometimes they say it's right in front of your face. Are we at a point where we can maybe start getting back to Rashawn Holmes could very well be the backup big that we're looking for right here on the roster all along?
Yeah, I think that's the ideal situation. And I think because of his contract and how hard it might be to find him a new home, I think there's more inclination to talk ourselves into that, because he is capable. Kings fans know what Rashawn Holmes is capable of. And we've been seeing the Lakers game was a perfect just kind of callback to, oh, this guy is the same player. He's in there. That was so exciting and that fans fell in love with. He is there, but he has to reinvent himself and kind of put himself back into a bench role. And like last night's game was a perfect example of what a good night looks like in that regard. And consistency to me is the biggest problem. Can he do it consistently? Because that's been the only reason why he's bounced in and bounced out of the rotation, is he'll put forth a nice effort like last night. But then we'll see what happens on tomorrow night against Toronto. Maybe he'll have a tough time in the paint defending. They have guys like Siakam and Scotty Barnes, and they have a lot of length in that. OG Anunoby, they have a lot of length. Can Rashawn Holmes defend the paint? That's the biggest thing the Kings need right now, is they need paint defense. Is he a rim protector? I don't think many people can say he's a rim protector, but the passion he brings is undeniable. I think Kings fans are always going to have a place in their hearts for Rashawn Holmes, but can the Kings find a place for him in their rotation? And the deadline's coming up. I don't know how hard it's going to be for this team to move him, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. If they could find a way to have him be that backup big and solve that problem in-house, that's going to be a huge win for them.
Read him and watch him on Sactown Sports' websites and all our socials. Frankie Cartoscelli joining us, our Kings Insider. Thank you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.